me also do this. Should work too. Hello? It's me. Okay. Okay. I kind of spent a little bit more time for kind of like a product like this to be created, but I'm really passionate into this because I have ADHD myself. So before I get started, for everyone here is how used is everyone to have a schedule of things being done for them. So let's use the current day-to-day education, right? Like you're used to waking up at a particular time on the weekday, you go to class, and throughout that time you're used to like chatting with like your friends, right? For X amount of time, you go to the next course, walk to your next class, and it kind of gets repetitive, right? For some kids, they thrive in it, right? Because like you build a schedule of consistency, and but there's other kids where especially for ADHD, if you find no purpose behind a schedule that you didn't truly develop from within, you tend to like it's harder to like stay focused, have something to like to work towards, and build consistency of like when you're optimized for work and when you're socializing with friends. Yeah, you're doing that right now, Rebirth. Yeah, like it kind of feels like really dwelling, right? Like you rather be at home playing Valorant. You rather be like actually maybe even pursuing a career that you rather be seeing like if this is something that you potentially want to go to school for deeper. I've been there myself. I wait for you to respond before I continue on. For comp science degree, I'm trying to see how far Val can take. I can go. Okay, yeah. So for me, I've learned different levels of different industries how they approach scheduling. So in MMA, I learned how to optimize my training to avoid burnout. As a Valorant player, I applied the same principles to grind, climb, and develop my mind for competition. So the difference between like traditional sports, per se, like more physical compared to like mental, is your body is could tell you when to stop overworking. But when it comes to Valorant, from my experience, I've seen a lot of players where they would try to play 10 to 12 hours ranked a day, but like there's a time of a window where you burn out and you might just start autopiloting. So how many like people in the audience today ran into that days where you played too much Valorant where you couldn't remember like the second half of the day. Like let's just say like you started off decently well, play 1 to 4 games. You could it wasn't too repetitive, but you could remember key moments. You're like, oh, I remember why I lost that round. I remember why I won that round. And then eventually, let's just say you didn't want to end on a two game losing streak. So you ended up playing 4 more games. Like it's a casino. You start gambling more. You start like overly doing an activity where you feel like kind of disgusting afterwards where you're like, wow, like I just wasted my whole night just doing this. And why do I say that's important? Because again, right, like you were not physically exhausted as extent of like working out, doing a sport, but you're mentally you think you could keep on doing it because you see Valorant as like, oh, I can just play the game because I enjoy the game. I can do a lot, and you get told all the time, hey, if you want to get better at Valorant, you need to play 10 to 12 hours a day, like these note lives. But I do believe that that type of schedule is very outdated. And if you were to try to do the same thing in a physical sport, like for example, I used to train 6 hours a day, 5 times a week in MMA, and I'll show everyone my schedule in a bit. But I got very good with with less than half the time of the average MMA fighter because I was splitting my courses. I was on top of my rest, on top of my nutrition, and in terms of like my scheduling, and I was doing this during college too, by the way. I would train 3 hours during the morning, 3 hours at night. I would do college in between, like before my class, in between, at night, try to do as many online classes as possible. But that allowed me to uh, use the peaks of my to use my cognitive and physical peaks. So that would be a very good introduction into the first topic, which is cognitive and physical peaks. Your brain could only focus intensely for 4 to 6 hours a day. Use time blocking to schedule your most important tasks like VOD reviews or studying during your peak hours. So for everyone to understand this more, and I'm gonna use like a vol plan to kind of use as a drawing board. Okay, so 4 to 6 hours, and that doesn't mean you have to like use everything immediately. Like think of it like as this like as HP portion, right? Like throughout the day, you are slowly losing energy until you sleep on a graph. And maybe in the beginning of the day, you could operate with no caffeine. Maybe your first meal of the day could give you the energy that you need to get through your first part, which is maybe like some sort of morning class, some sort of early task, right? But you're maybe using one or two. Like you're probably gonna be locked in for one of the two of those hours, right? I've seen some people where they work extremely early in the morning. They could use 4 hours straight, and I say this because it's like more like chefs. Like chefs were like very hard working in the morning. Like the prep work was like kind of like all the work, right? But they didn't necessarily use all their 6 hours. And then like when it came to like services, like the kitchen, like the lunch services or nighttime, like they would like when it came to like more critical thinking moments, such as like thinking about a menu, talking to customers, or managing the front of the house, the back of the house, they would use some of that of their peak hours. And then whenever like they wanted to like reset, they would go to like a more repetitive autopilot kind of like prep work to kind of reset themselves before the next moment of like you need to use critical thinking. You need to be present in these moments. So kind of give an idea, right? So the reason why I say that is because for me, I kind of like go back to this like is like I trained myself over the years to dial my mind for specific tasks and not try to force myself to be a high level all the time. It's not optimal to be in that level of pressure, like to pressure cook yourself, saying, "Oh, everything I need to do throughout the whole day, I need to be present. I need to be locked in." I think rest and knowing when you could just like chill out until the next moment of like of intensity is very important. And this will I hope everyone avoid burnout and mental health. Constant high alert states increase stress hormones, your cortisol, causing anxiety, irritability, and burnout. Could possibly be a route to early retirement for many esports players and even like college students too. So like just imagine this. If everybody was to I'll get to your question real quick, Colo. So if everybody was to think that like let's just say like you have 4 projects to do the end of the week. And every single day, every single minute leading up to Friday night due, you keep on telling yourself, I have to do this project. I have to do this project. Everything becomes guilty to you. Every time you eat, every time you talk to friends, every time you even just load up a Val game, going towards the deadline, you create a habit of pushing away the important things that you need to do. Rather than making it digestible, manageable throughout the day, you're like, okay, like going up to Friday, I'm going to start this project on Monday. I'm going to then go into Tuesday, where maybe I'm not going to take it as hard as I did as yesterday. Around the same time, maybe you dedicate a particular time. But what am I doing? Does everyone know like what I'm creating? I'm creating a consistency. I'm creating times of the day where my brain understands that, hey, I'm going to become consistent. I'm going to like, this is a time block where I'm going to dedicate myself to working rather than like always trying to fit in of like, oh, whenever I'm free, I'm going to decide to do the work. But when you do that, it becomes harder to lock in. So why I say that is because I have severe ADHD. I've always been told by doctors I need Adderall. Okay. And because I'm not consistently working throughout the day, it's very hard to get into that state. Don't get me wrong. Once I get into the flow state, I could get everything done. I could flow. I don't need medication. Maybe a cup of coffee is all I need. But for everyone here, just understand that like it's a lot harder to lock in when you're not building a consistent schedule of when you're studying, when you're working. Can anyone like here kind of like relate to like that kind of struggles in terms of like making it hard to lock in? Like you feel like you're wasting your day, and like next thing you know, when you're procrastinating, when you're like kind of like daydreaming, your whole day's gone because maybe you spent 4 hours. I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. You spent 4 hours in bed or just wandering off when you could have just immediately do it, commit to it, just get out of the way before you feel less guilty and going on to the next like topic or next task. What's the topic for this college? It is time blocking and priorities. This is more for like college students, ADHD specific like players. Yeah, right. So I worked with a performance coach too when it came to you were going to drastically perform worse at a task if you always have something in the back of your mind. So for example, like let's just say like you have to do laundry or you have to do some errands for your parents, but you keep on pushing it off on the side, but you try to do your everyday task. For example, like you try to queue a few rank games, and what ends up happening is like every time there was like a moment of like downtime, moment to second guess yourself, it could sometimes pop up. You could even be in a clutch and you're like, damn, I forgot to do this for my mom and dad. I forgot to walk my dog. And then next thing you know, the chamber just swings you and kills you. Like, I've seen that. I've coached so many players where that has happened before where I even told them, I was like, hey, were you like locked in this moment? Or what were you thinking? You're like, bro, I don't know, bro. I think I was legitimately thinking about my life. Tier 2 players in a challengers match told me that. I'm like, what? I was like, damn, like, I mean, my class schedule was very focused over 2 days, and I was taking a break. Should I adjust my normal schedule to make up for lost time? I'm on a Tuesday and Friday schedule. Rebirth for you, I would say, um, really, I would say note down of how long it takes to do every single task. So the way I created my schedules before, is you write down how long does it like realistically takes you to do something. And then when you note everything down, if you create it into a schedule, you could actually kill and subtract how many hours it takes to do those things. So, for example, like if it takes you 8 hours to study, but on a consistent schedule, you could probably break that down to 6 hours because you're not using 2 hours to lock in to like, kind of like start up the engine. I'm gonna answer some questions before I go to the next portion, which is actually let me talk about this one first before I can talk about my MMA pass. So diminishing returns. Excessive grind yields less improvement. Focus less time blocked practice, etc. Like doing too much aim training could also be like very like it could be like reaching to the negatives. 1 hour VOD review or during peak cognitive hours and more effective. It's gonna be more effective than 10-hour marathons as it aligns with your brain's natural rhythms. Constant marathons of brainlessly playing can lead to autopiloting. So for everyone here, does anyone have like a friend or a buddy or few where they don't necessarily have a job, they don't take college so seriously. They play Valorant 10 hours a day, but like whenever you talk to them, it feels like you're talking to like a zombie. Like they're just like so out of it, right? Okay, so I'm just saying like we're talking to some addicts here, okay? Like we don't want to be that. From I think that's like think about the Valorant community, right? So we all like it's like a drug. Valorant is like a drug, right? Like you get a lot of dopamine. It's it's very rewarding when you win, you play with friends, right? But like think about it like this. When everybody first started the game, everybody loved it. Bro, like, yeah, I can play this game all day long. Yeah, I want to be on this high forever. Few years down the line, those same people become the most toxic motherfuckers you will ever play in your life. They get like very emotional, it's very triggering, and next thing you know, when you legitimately like step back, you're like, wow, this player used to just like have fun every single day. He used to be locked in. He used to be present when I talked to him. Now it's like he's a whole different human being. But this is what I want everyone to realize that I'm trying to help you avoid. But you could have maintained a level of euphoria if you were to have some sort of reward system in your schedule. You're not burn yourself out because I know everybody loves this so much they want it to make it work, but you need to also take self care of yourself. I've seen some of my clients before where I helped them get paid opportunities where they just felt so burnt out by the time they got onto a paid trial and they ended up not succeeding the trials and not getting picked up. And it could be everyone here too, where like I know you want it so badly, you overwork yourself. But recovery is very important, sleep, and also too like not pushing away all your relationships. Like I'm not just talking about your significant other. I'm also thinking about like your family, your friends, if you prioritize that very heavily. Like I fell into that role before where I felt the guiltiness built up throughout time where I was like, wow, I didn't talk to my best friend for months on end. My best friend of 8 years as of like this year. Like she was one of very few people that actually like stay connected with me. She understood the level of grind, but for the most part, when you're out of college, you need to create a level of maintenance. You need to schedule hanging out with your friends. Like it's important that like you socialize, you practice a skill. When you don't socialize for X amount of time, you build anxiety. You work backwards of like, oh, before you were able to make friends off the street or off in classes, ends up becoming a drooling task. You're like, wow, I don't think I could do this anymore, but before I can. And that's a very guilty feeling because you were not necessarily practicing that skill on a day-to-day basis. And it could be very fearsome. I know that like gamers, you are very introverted, but now translate it to playing a ranked game with a bunch of strangers, right? Like, are you more likely to open up and talking to people and try to win, or are you gonna be very introverted, like not use your mic, be like and getting kind of feel guilty knowing that like, oh, your teammates are like locked in, but you feel too intimidated to talk. I know everyone's different. I'm just like providing different examples, but like these are things that happen every single day, if you know it or not. All right, so maybe answer some questions. But any questions on like time blocking parties and anything that I've talked about? Does this kind of help everyone like get an idea of like something that we want to like build towards and helping everyone like create some consistency? Type one in chat if you agree. You can type one. I can be like a little streamer for this. All right, let me screw up a little bit. Okay, so if I have missed your question, I'm gonna see how far I could go up and answer. Okay, rebirth, answer yours. Okay, Kush, what's the topic for bro? Answer that. Bagels. For me, sometimes I feel rushed when I have to do stuff outside of the game because it just results in bad decision making. Yeah, and it could also come down to like time management, right? Where like you were basically forced in a position where you were to make a decision of throwing something on top of your schedule. So it just everything just becomes like a mess. You were in a high alert scenario, working on a task or playing a Valorant game, and then next thing you're told, you're like, hey, I need you to do this for me. You're now locked, like you're now pulled out of your flow state, and you're now like being told you're like, hey, make the decision, make the adjustment right away, and then oh, you could go back. It's like imagine your parents, right? Like this is gonna sound like a little corny, but like you're locked into a Val game, right? You're popping off. Next, you know, you get a knock on your door. Your sibling, your family member. You're like, hey, I need you to do this for me. You respond, even if you respond to them, that takes you out of a locked state, right? But that you could do that for yourself too, where you're like, oh, I forgot to do this. Damn, let me put this on pause. Let me try to get to it. And that does lower the level of flow state and the efficiency that you work through things, like the fluidity. And you got to be careful with that too, because like maybe now you got to relock in to do the next task, and that could take X amount of time, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and you're wasting all these times trying to lock in because it is your natural brain of like creating a pathway to prepare itself for the next line of task. If I work at 95 and as a P intensive, it's pretty intensive. How can I optimize this for Valorant? Five half the times my brain can't work well, so I aim train then try to play after dinner. So for you, Armin, this is what I'll recommend. So you cannot sit down and you fully with confidence play 5 ranked games straight. Even I can't do it on a day that I don't have work and I just try to play ranked. You will require a level of positive um, breaks. So I actually have been working on a project with Top Frag. I kind of will give everyone like a little quick snippet here. If you want the full access, obviously, you know, you could join the programs, join the curriculums. But here, let me showcase something for you. And it is everyone close your eyes. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, down here is there's positive reset strategies that you could implement in between every game or every 2 games for your armament. Because you worked very intensely, your level of focus is going to be lost a lot quicker than other people. And if you take caffeine as well, maybe your body is in a more exhausted state. So maybe after every few games, just spend a couple of minutes, for example, you could take a step away from your setup, grab some snacks in between, breathing exercises. You've seen players like Asbaz do this. grabbing a quick snack as I mentioned before, or like something engaging, like for example, like use something like fidget to keep your brain optimized and working while you're waiting for like your next queue. Maybe you're 5 stacking and you have like a 15-minute queue, for example, depending on your rank. That could help you out, like help you like stay focused for a extended period of time. Like same thing for me. So the next topic is the mixed martial arts schedule that I did for 5 years, 4.5 years. Is so basically from Monday through Thursday, I would be at the gym between 9 a.m. to 12. I would have a break in between, and then I'll come back to the gym around 3:30 to 5:30 for classes. But even between these like hour classes, you still have like about 10 minutes to kind of fully reset, because like the structure of the class was we will warm up for the first 10 to 15 minutes, like with drills, with like like same thing, like it's like a Valorant warmer, right? Where like instead of like deathmatching, I'm kind of like on the mats rolling, or maybe like shadow boxing, and you spend the next 20 minutes. Let's take of it as like VOD review, where the coaches will be demonstrating techniques, like sequences. You get a drill partner. You also drill back and forth. A couple minutes. Everybody huddles up in the middle of the mats again. He shows the next line of like of tasks, but he makes the class engaging in a way where you're doing one thing at a time throughout. So, and then the last like 20 minutes per se, or depending on some other classes, you might just do technique the whole entire class. Other classes where it will be 30 minutes of technique drills into sparring, or into like live roles, like which is mean like just grappling, like wrestling. But for everyone here, you could implement a very similar schedule. So it's gonna be obviously a little longer, but be more like specific when you practice. Like you could even spend a couple hours where let's just say like within an hour, you warm up. So let's just say like warm up. You go into you spend like 20 to 30 minutes just just practice on your movement, and maybe the next 10 minutes you just practice on the next drill, which is like shooting. And then you play DMs. And this could be like your self-improvement kind of like segment, right? Maybe you're not in the mood to play ranked for the day, which is perfectly fine, but your mind and body could do something more repetitive. So make yourself easy to grind on Valorant. You're like, okay, if I'm not repetitive, like if I'm not in the mind space to make decisions in a ranked setting, but I can at least put some time in Valorant. Okay, let's make it Pacific then. Let's drill some DMs. Let's go in the range and just strafe. Let me shoot some bots. And then maybe after then, if I feel like I'm in the right state to play ranked, I will do it. But you're setting yourself up for success and managing your kind of like your percentage of growth of that day, rather than like, okay, I'm gonna try my best not to play ranked. So even like other IGOs in the past where they will cancel days of practice if not all 5 players feel like they could achieve a level of like productivity. Again, ADHD. Everybody has their schedule. Everybody has like shit that they have to go to every single like deal with every single day. It's very draining to always chase your dream. That's what makes this very difficult. But you gotta make it enjoyable and realistic for yourself. Like I don't expect everyone here after this 2-day session to be like grinding 6 hours a day of Valorant. No, I want everyone to kind of have like a sustainable life. I don't want you to sacrifice too much of your education for the grind of Valorant when you're not necessarily there, but like make it manageable, make it realistic. There's gonna be days where you can't practice every single day. There's gonna be days where like you could put a little bit more hours because you got ahead of work, and it feels very rewarding to be able to do something that you love. Any questions right now in terms of like little quick breather? Is everyone on the same page with me? Okay. What do you do if you have high headshot but mid KD? So that means that like you're winning your gunfights, but maybe you're always like trying to go for like one and dones all the time, Kudo. Like you're looking for like those quick like moments of like dopamine a lot throughout games. So like for example, like maybe you need to play out rounds more. or you don't always have to play to the death. So like, if you were to play like Breeze, just because you start mid, that doesn't mean you have to like look for a fight immediately. Sometimes you could kind of like test the waters a little bit, see what they're doing, and then work for information first, and then you try to go for the kill. Maybe sometimes like also the way you swing, you're kind of instantly looking for fights every single time you swing. You're trying to take every single fight you're looking for instantly. But what if you were to bait out shots instead? This is kind of like a little bit off the topic, everyone. So just bear with me. But like, if you're playing against like the enemy top elbow, and you don't necessarily know exactly which position they could be over close, they could be far, they could be beyond the box, right? Your first jiggle should be more for info swing, or potentially bait out the shot. Because now, when you actually pause and swing, you could recalibrate the way that you take the fight to create the advantage against the sage. Instead of just like slicing the pie and getting surprised by an off angle and dying to it. Yeah, it comes down to your mechanics and to how you take gunfights. You need to apply your game sense to allowing you to win more gunfights. Like like the way that like Screwface like broke down the way I played the game, and we scrimmed against like tier 1 teams like every single day when he was like on my roster. Was I was playing against NRG, Cloud9, Envy, and I was like doing consistently very well. And he ended up figuring out that I'm a more methodical player. Like I make decisions in the moment, like a very instinctive. Like, but I'm not like scrappy at all. But like I take my time. I know when to play fast, when to make a decision. Don't recklessly do things, and I found a lot of success when I took my time more and put myself in a position where it was very hard for me to get caught off in those moments. Like for example, like I didn't get too close, but I didn't get too far. I was close enough to still create action happening on the run of initiator. I say I could do that too, but the thing is, I hesitated. So I do replicate what you do, since we have similar like playstyles. Yeah, and then also too, it's just repetitive too. Like end of the day, like the more you play, the more like that level of thinking just subtract down. Where like you can make the same level of decision from the flow chart a lot more fluidly, like more like consistently, more in a snap through repetitive like motions and like reps. So what I mentioned earlier before was okay. So to go back to my MMA schedule is so I did this with additional work that ranged between strength and conditioning or amateur practice later in the night, which was like it was a 7 to 8 p.m. Amateur class, depending if it was a Tuesday or Thursday, which happened like Tuesday, Thursday, the amateur classes. But besides that, though, I still maintained the level of like 3 hours in the afternoon, 3 hours at night, due to being on the pro team while being an amateur. And I was kind of like breaking a lot of records in my gym. For example, like you needed to train at the gym for around 4 years, and I go to a world class gym like Extreme Couture, like and the logo right here, see it, and you need to be at least 4 years to trial for the amateur team, potentially not even make the team, train another 4 years. So ideally, you want to be in the 6 to 8 year range before you're even on the pro team. What fights, cage fights, competition. I made the amateur team within a year and a half, and then I made the pro team 6 months later when I was invited to be part of UFC fight camps. And then everybody just kept me because I kept showing up, and they saw like how hard I was working and the heart that I had, and the growth too. Okay, so now let's compare to like this structure schedule of like you can even consider professional. Okay, to now compared to a typical Valorant player schedule where they play 10 hours of rank straight. Some brag about playing 20 games straight with no breaks. I mean, let's be realistic here. Did they take some sort of like medication to reach this level of like insanity? Yeah, I don't doubt it. Is it even possible while pursuing a university level education, plus the difficulty of in person classes, and maybe a dorm setting, maybe living on your own, right? Compared to like someone that lives with their parents, playing 20 hours straight, only having like a GED, right? Like there's like you two, like these two people are just not on the same wavelength, you know? Like one is voting for the future while the other one's like hoping that they have like the 0.5% of making it. Along with team practices, no thought of VOD reviews, individual work, nutrition, recovery, constant sleep schedule, and then not consistent. Just think about like the comparison though. Like there's a reason why Valorant players, even though it's not a physically demanding sport, people are retiring before they even like reach adulthood, compared to like a physical sport like hockey, football, baseball, where I've seen athletes even like play until they're 40. Like, does this kind of like throw everyone off now? Like, now that you're seeing this firsthand, like this is like literally written down of like, okay, like, do you think like you could sustainably have a career if you were to play 20 hours of ranked games a day just because it's Valorant and because it's your job? No. Like, I think you're gonna play worse because you're too autopilot. You're too like locked out of things. Where like now, like every time like people were like, if you were a pro player and you were not present talking and critically thinking like offlines and VOD reviews, I've seen people get dropped because they were not efficiently managing their time outside of the server. Unless you were dropping numbers like Aspas and Zekin and some of these like star players that you see, a lot of the times you have to put in a lot of work. You had to put in the ranked time. You had to not be slacking off, but like taking care of yourself enough where throughout the season you're actually developing as a player, not going backwards because you're not like burning yourself out. And due to these factors, I am a huge believer that this is the main cause of like why, again, like this is why a lot of players retire in esports, not just Valorant. So that leads me to my next subject. So we kind of talked about like a very optimal schedule for training. I was putting in a lot of hours, but I wasn't like necessarily overwork myself. On the weekends, I always had it off to like fully recover. 2-day breaks, I'm a very big fan of it. Going to the next Friday, I'll train for like another 3 hours in the morning. But like when it came to like Friday afternoon to like Sunday night, I was full and relaxed, very like low, physically demanding exercises or activities. So let's create an actual practical time blocking framework. And everyone here is free to kind of like write them down as we go along, okay? And this is kind of like, this could be like more engaging activity for everyone. So step one is identifying peak hours. So what I mean by that is be realistic when you feel most productive to invest in more important activities in those windows. Okay, so for example, if I was to eat breakfast, wake up early, shower, right, get ready, I could be a very productive person in the morning. I know there's other people where no matter what they do, they would just simply be more productive in the afternoon or nighttime. Note that down. That is very important because those are the times where you were committed to doing the more difficult task and not so like you're not going to use those windows to do something that's very repetitive and very robotic. That's just a waste of like your potential. So vibe dependent, yeah. So that goes down to IO. That goes down to like vibe dependent, right? Where like maybe you're more in the mood in the afternoon to play Valorant compared to like a nighttime where like you don't like to play Valorant so much in the nighttime, but you're so productive at that time, so you do homework instead. Like, are you like what are you in the mood for, right? You know how the little girly like the girlies say it nowadays. It's like, what am I in the mood for? Yeah, hell yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like shit, I hate playing ranked. I do not play ranked past 1 a.m. I'm gonna be completely honest. Whatever. If you see me do that, I'm probably toe queuing. But like, I've been doing a lot less of that lately. But like for example, like for me, like it's the same thing with like top frag. Like I like to work on top frag during the nighttime. I'm a very heavy thinker at night. I feel like I create magic at night. I'd rather play unless it's a tournament. I'm not gonna play Valorant past like midnight. Like I'm not. But when it comes to tournaments, I can play tournaments in the afternoon, in the beginnings of nights. Like yeah, I know I'm gonna be playing in a circuit where it's a lot higher of a level of ceiling than like ranks, where like everyone's on an alt account maybe. Some people are going through like a word phase, like they're not going to sleep, you know, like demons. Like I don't want to deal with that. Very empowering too. Yeah, I agree with you, Casey. I agree. It's never a homework 5. Cool. Okay, that's some point you gotta sacrifice. You gotta figure it out. Like you gotta test the waters. And also too, like for everyone here, don't be afraid to also be like, I want to see if I could get more done in the morning or at night, because you cannot create a good, like, you don't know exactly what you're good at until you try it. So like for example, for me, I started off as a chef, 5 years, from like age of like 14 to 19. I ended up like getting burnt out, and then I go into MMA where I was able to go further, longer through a set schedule. Loved it, but then eventually I found Valorant, and this is something that like I've always was naturally doing and developing throughout my life. That I was able to like really leverage off of to create a level of success. But I've realized that like, oh, like not everyone has a very disciplined or thought out time block and priorities. But maybe if I could help everyone here develop that in the young 20s, getting through high school, getting out of high school, then you would see levels of more satisfaction to yourself. So next is prioritize the task, right? Academics, Valorant, VOD reviews, sleep. What times of the day do you really, like, realistically, again, like, right, like what, like in the days, like what are you, when are you in the mood to do all of this? Maybe people will use VOD reviews as a way to go to sleep. I've seen people watch Counter-Strike games while going to bed. Like I had teammates like that, and they feel like that was their version of VOD reviews, right? And it worked. It rather than like trying to force yourself to VOD review, but you're in the mindset to grind ranked and win your games. Like I'm not gonna stop you from going into ranked if you feel hot and you feel like mentally locked in. Like again, right? Like, why am I wasting your time doing something where you don't need to be as locked in to do? So it's a very good comparison to use urgent versus importance. And let me just highlight this too for everyone to see. I do more like contrasting color, complementary color. And then now step three is like now that you have like kind of like a databases to work off of, like you're like obviously like on paper it's gonna be a little scattered out, right? Like like your peak hours, priorities. Now you start like organizing. So you create a schedule. You provide a sample of a weekly combining class, study, maybe Valorant, whatever it is, etc. Like for example, like maybe you want to do 2 hours of alien training, while now VOD review, whatever it is, right? Recovery. Make sure to add this. Oh my god, please, please. Not like I'm not like Kobe Bryant like level of psychotic, right? Like I like my breaks. I want to make it realistic that like there's windows of my day where I could work towards to fully recover and just kind of like be a different pace of life of your grind. It's very important to incorporate this. Like you will feel so much more in better shape going to your next line of tasks after having some sort of break, rather than like constantly grinding the gears for so long. By the time you're towards the end of the day, you're kind of like pooped. But we're trying to delay yourself from feeling so burnt out. Does it make sense to everybody? Like so, like incorporate this. Like for example, like go on a walk, stop by a park, eat at your favorite restaurant, whatever it is. Like right, like you want to make your schedule enjoyable because this is very important. If you have a schedule that you enjoy doing, you will do it for way longer than like trying to fake grind for like 2 weeks and be like, this shit's too hard. I had teammates before where they try to copy my exact schedule, and I even warned them. I'm like, hey guys, this is a little bit more psychotic in your day-to-day schedule. I don't think you should just culture. You should just like jump in the ocean, jump with me, and try to like work as at my level of pace. Like you're gonna get burnt out. And I had players have to take breaks because they tried to do my schedule in the past, and it wasn't healthy. I don't think like I would have done things differently too, but I was grinding like really hard. Like I was grinding for like 14 hours a day. But they didn't know that like I did it with breaks, etc. And then throughout time, you're going to have to review and adjust. There's going to be changes in your life. I understand like maybe you started dating, you started taking on a new job. Classes have different windows of when you have to be very busy and maintain a grade. Like that's where projects comes in, group projects, presentations that you have to prioritize compared to the other courses. Maybe like during those weeks, it's just note taking, you're just reviewing, right? So I encourage weekly checkups with yourself, refine your schedule. This creates the skill of self awareness to allow yourself to understand what's realistic and what's not to still achieve similar levels of success by weekly basis. And then if everyone do ends up like really enjoying like this kind of call, then the next community call, if you do come up again or end up like going to my classes, I will incorporate this into the curriculums where I will make this into a 2-week block because I think 1 hour to call something so important that I believe in is not enough. So I want to incorporate this into like a next line of work and help everyone like kind of like go against like burnt out, like kind of battle against burnout and the ADHD. So now let's get even more specific with this topic. It's address the common student challenges, right? Acknowledge barriers like procrastination, social pressures, irregular class schedules, and then I want to offer some solutions. So again, when it comes to procrastinating, use accountability partners. So for example, for MMA, the reason why I was there every single day from Monday through Thursday is I truly loved being around the people that I was working with. I had the opportunity every single day at a young age where I got to create a lot of friends from all around the world. Like people were traveling to Vegas to come to the gym and train. They were willing to like they show me levels of ambition and hard work that I've never seen before in my life that incorporated and developed the way that I am now today. That helped me get success in Valorant and push through like my more difficult times of my life. And without that social factor, things could become a little bit more difficult. So think about like the gym. If you have a gym partner that you love going to the gym with every single day compared to doing it alone, you're more likely going to be at the gym longer than just doing it solo all the time and not having that level of ambition. Maybe some people could do it. Maybe some people do prefer using the gym more as a introverted zen state to end the day off. But throughout the day, they were socializing to do their classes, their schoolwork, Valorant, play with friends, right? Like that's different. Like it balances out with each other, you know, like the social aspect and like the alone time. And then you also have like social pressures. I know that like socializing could feel very daunting, very exhausting sometimes, like scheduling with friends, meeting a certain level of standards for others, right? And then like why is this important? Like the social pressures, like what, like managing it too. Can everyone like answer this? What do I mean by social pressures? Maybe you have the pressure for your parents to finish your degree, right? You have a social, like a certain like social status that you would want to meet your friends. Like your friends are all getting like the dream internships, grades, and you're trying to like kind of like, you know, go toe to toe with them, right? Like you don't want to show them like you're like a disappointment too. Like that happens. I understand that. Expectation from others and from ourselves then. Yes, exactly. That's the kind of social pressure. Yeah, you're always going to have like self expectations for yourself, right? That could be like very like demoralizing too. Like I have way too high standards for myself as well. But yeah, like it's also like managing that level of pressure, like a pressure cooker while like performing. I'm winning challenge 2026. Yeah, yeah. I then you create a schedule where like you can meet those expectations, but like be realistic yourself. Get yourself a time frame, you know. And then a regular schedule too. Teach flexible time blocking, right? So again, when it came back to like the earlier, so like if we go back to like if we take a step back, look at prioritize tasks and identifying peak hours. Sometimes like those windows are flexible for other things, but you make yourself like productive in those windows still. For example, like in the day, you you could still see yourself playing Valorant or doing schoolwork. So sometimes like if you are ahead of work, you can just play Valorant in the morning and feel very productive still. A time frame is a shot in the dark across two universal fabrics of time. Yeah. I mean, you're not also like you don't always get your free classes. I know like a lot of universities like how they work is the upper classes always get to choose their ideal schedules first, and then the freshmen are like left with like scraps and like the most chaotic schedules and the worst professors. Identify windows of peak performance or times that could be dealt with to catch up on or something. Oh yeah, and also too, like this is also very important for everyone. there's gonna be moments where you do fall behind. Like it doesn't go as planned. That's going to happen. I'm not expecting everyone here to build like a world class schedule, but something that like you could like start off the wheels going. So the way I think about this is you're going to have to adapt. So the next line of strategy is schedule yourself by a couple of days basis by the end of the week. By the end of the week, I'm going to get this X amount of done. By the end of the day, I'm going to have this done. But you make it digestible and realistic for yourself. You're like, okay, like if that's the case, then I'm going to schedule my day like this to make this work. A graph would be fire for that. Like for me, I'm imagining that your peak focus windows, it's like a roller coaster. Yeah, exactly. It is like it's also ties to your emotions, your motivation, your drive. Like it's a lot of different like psychological factors. Maybe you're also motivated because like you get to see your crush every single day. I'm not gonna lie, I fell victim of that before. I went to my business class because I had a crush on a girl, and ended up going on a date with her. Yep. Was I there every single day locked in? Hell yeah, I was. But don't tell anyone though, okay? Like, I mean, we keep it within this call. How do I operate the ride for my non-peak hours? Like, what do I do? So for your non-peak hours, I'll you like implement sometimes like where you want to like relax. You're probably a very high achieving like type of personality where like you feel like you have to do something every minute of the day that builds towards your future, but that's going to crumble you. Like you need to legitimately like make your day to day more enjoyable. It sounds like for example, like it doesn't have to be Valorant. Like for example, I play Tetris to lock in. Like I don't even warm up on Valorant necessarily anymore. I aim train. I play Tetris. I get my brain in the optimal state, and I play Valorant. I love Tetris. I that's how like my brain gets operating. Like I get locked in like that. Sim racing is the best warm up. But what else can you do? It's like it's also like if you don't want to do anything physical, like just give yourself like you need to. I'm telling you, like you need to do less to get more done. It sounds crazy. Like imagine if you just had like a couple hours less of what you were doing towards, but you were putting in more quality work than quantity. I tell Casey all the time. Like I'll get like in his eyes, I'm probably doing a lot. In my head, in my like I'm trying to push myself to do more, but if I'm trying to provide quality work all the time, what I'm doing for Top Frag, then I'm going to like increase like my level of like consistency to provide like a very good like quality. And the same thing with your rank games, right? Like you're gonna provide more quality in 4 rank games versus 8 rank games. Less is more. All right, so that is the end of this segment. How did everyone enjoy this? I know this is all different from like all the like community like classes, right? Like this is not like aim training. This wasn't like video game specific. It wasn't like Valorant related. It was just like like this is kind of like more of a life lecture. Is that worth it, Io? I honestly, I'll the fact that you played 8 games and you stayed even is honestly more worth it. That's way better than like playing 8 games and you're down 40 elo. I'm just saying, like take like you leave the casino even, man. Maybe you lost a couple bucks. Yeah, but screw it. You like no, it's a casino, man. No, you gotta leave it. I legitimately was like that a few days ago, and then the next day I ended up going like 5-1, and I was like, okay, I'm good. But imagine like you went 5-1 the next day. From the previous day, you were down 40 elo, and then realistically, you were only up 10 elo. You know, like you gotta think about the long run. What if I spend 500 to casino, put in another 500 to make my money back? Yeah. All right. So for everyone that tuned in today, appreciate it. This is something I'm very passionate about. I want to like really like turn the community around in terms of Valorant, like kind of like really recreate the way that like people enjoy this game, either by like helping them with their quality of life, Valorant related, but Casey can take the wheel from here. But basically like I've been running and helping Top 5 create curriculums for all levels of players, like all the way from Iron all the way to Mortal into three circuits. I'm very really heavily invested in 3 of them right now in terms of like the Valorant coaching side, and for the 2 and 3, it's more for like my Ascendants, my Platinum players, even Immortal and Radiant. I also have like a kind of like a player development where like I will help you get into like the consistency of what it will take for you to grind and level up to even leverage more off of like the Valorant coaching side. But like what? Like I was that's just called being boosted. And if you hire someone to play ranked for you, that's called boosting. Oh,